Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Signing Agents podcast with a power couple, Cathy and Dave Vidal from New Jersey. How you guys doing today?
We're great,
What's
Derek.
going on?
How are you?
Oh, I'm so glad you guys are my friends. I'm so glad you guys are on the podcast this episode. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Hey, you honor us.
Well, you guys are out in New Jersey on the East Coast.
Yep.
So happy to have you guys on. I'm on the West Coast, kind of Midwest-ish. But anyway, we've become good friends. We've met a few times, and I'm so honored to call you guys friends, and I'm so honored that you guys took the time to come on because you guys are the Notary Couple. You guys are in business as a couple together, as a married couple together. I think that is fantastic. But first, tell me, who started? I'm sure only one of you started it first. Cathy did?
I started it, but Dave had found out that being a loan signing agent is
A thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So he found out about it.
And then
Yeah.
Cathy
Yeah.
did it
Yeah.
first. All right,
Yes.
let's tell that story. So, Dave, how did you discover this whole loan signing agent business?
Absolutely. So I was in banking. I was 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009, that whole credit crunch. I was in banking. I lost a banking job, but then the company that owned that defunct bank opened up something else, hired me, blah, blah, blah. This whole time I had been dealing with the lending world and knowing of the function.
But you got your notary commission.
And I had been yes, I got my commission again to deal with things that the company needed notarized, dealt with. And I dealt with in some instances with closers. With notaries, loan signing agents. Yet I never had really realized that this was a thing outside of, they were title folks. I always thought they were title folks. Never realized that they might have been people that were contracted or vendors to these outside companies, to the title companies. So then I started kind of poking around, looking more and more, really wanting to answer that question, what else could I do with my commission? Because up till that point, all I ever needed my commission for was to sign some merger document between, the company that was something they were selling off, or a loan package or something like that they were just selling off. So this is 2016. Actually 2016. I was looking, I was maneuvering, poking online, reading blogs, and then even came across some other folks out there that were doing what I still didn't even realize was loan signing, notary signing.
Okay.
Afterward, I came across one of Mark Wills's original videos from the loan signing system, and saw that and was like, okay, this is interesting. There's something here, and started going more into some other videos, reading more on the situation. Then finally, realizing, wait a minute, loan signing agents, they're not title people. They are, in some states you do need to be a licensed title pro to do closings. In New Jersey, we do not. So I was like, okay, let me see what we can do. And so with that, now fast forward, we are now in 2018, about there, or early 2018.
Okay.
We saw them put any company together. But I was like, okay, that maybe this is something I can start for me. In that year, though, we had, can I tell that part with your mom? Mm-hmm. In that year, we had a difficult situation occurring. Cathy's mom had was sick. Cathy's
my mom was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was a medical malpractice paralegal, and the firm I was with was splitting up, going through a lot of changes. I was trying to figure things. Actually, they already had split. I went, with one side, but I was not happy. It was a 9 to 5. I will say they were very, very nice and very flexible with my hours so that I could, go with my mom to her chemo and all the stuff that needed to be done. But it still wasn't, I was like a good employee, so I feel bad if I'm not there doing work. So I need something different that would still bring an income home, but not necessarily have me commuting into the office doing work.
Yeah.
Dave already had taken the course, and at the time there was only one there was only one course to be offered by the loan signing system. By the time I get there was a 6-figure course. So I take that, and I'm like, okay.
All right.
And we did a course. This is nice. Let's see what we can do now.
I'm understanding what it is. And so Cathy, she turns to me one day, fast forward now, things with her mom sadly had started to take a turn for the worse. And so Cathy wanted a way to just make more time to spend with her mom, to help her mom deal with the needs.
Just everything that happens in those types of situations.
And so one day she turns to me, I remember that day so vividly too. She turns to me, she goes, what can I do? Now this is situation with her previous job was occurring. She wants more time to spend with her mom. I was now at that point, I was employed. I actually had found another job at that point. I was working for a company in New York. But still in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want to start this part-time. Like many of our peers that we see, part-time, nights and weekends. And I'm like, but I turned to Cathy, I'm like, you know what? Why don't you start the business? Yeah. I literally said it like that. Why don't you start the business? I'm like, you start the loan signing business. Put us off, start us off. Let's see what happens. My job was paying for our benefits. My job was a decent salary. So everything was there. We tightened our belt a bit on expenses because now we were only going to have one form of income coming in, a steady income. And I said, you start the business. And she did. And although sadly, now one of the reasons obviously was for starting was to build more time to spend with her mom. Her mom sadly passed away
before I left the full time. Yeah.
But nonetheless, Cathy proceeded and started the business to allow her to have time to now spend it with other family members that still may need us.
You realize life is short and life is short, period. No matter whatever it is going on in life. So I went forward and we launched full time. I mean, yesterday just happened to be our 4-year anniversary of the business.
Yes.
But officially full time started January 1st of 2019.
Vidal Notaries officially hit 4 years in business. Granted, yes, that we didn't officially start until, I guess,
full time.
Full time didn't occur until the following year. But the business being formed, incorporated, whatever, everything,
registered, everything.
So yesterday, actually, technically, it's early November, 4 years. And so she started the business. She went at it. And this is now where the story obviously now takes a nice positive tone because I came into the business.
Actually, no. Dave continued to work his full-time gig. I was doing this part-time.
Were you doing strictly signing services at the time?
Actually, no. I did one signing service job.
Cathy,
just one.
Only ever in her entire career done one signing service job.
And I will be very honest. I got a little lucky in the situation because it was on a Thursday night, late at night, and I botched it all up. I completely botched it. But you never make the same mistakes again, let me tell you. It was one of those things where I didn't.
Kind of mistake you made?
Yeah, you know how you're supposed to set your printer settings so it prints on legal and letter? Mine printed all on letter. I ran out the door, and as I'm doing the signing, I realized pages are all cut off, but I just keep going with it. Okay. And it was one of those where it was like kind of a split signing, like there were spouses getting divorced. So I sat with the husband. We were outside. It was cold. It was freezing. Then the wife comes, do that thing. I come back. I call the signing service, and and he goes, listen, it's Thursday night. It's late at night in Jersey. You weren't going to drop this off till tomorrow. And I said, correct. He goes, whatever gets dropped off on Friday doesn't get delivered till Monday. Hint, hint. He literally said that. Hint, hint. I go, gotcha. So I hang up with the guy, and I call these people back, and I apologize profusely, and now I'm going to meet the guy on his job midday, and I'm meeting her after work later in the afternoon. And when the signing service got it, it was a completely perfect package. But the stress that I went through for those 4 hours, and I said, oh my God. But then, okay, I'm like, all right, I know how to do this. I at least knew how to execute the package once I got the printer settings right. Yeah. But then it was slow. And I had signed up with signing services, but to sit there on your phone trying to click fast enough to land a job was not happening. And, I'm all over social media looking at everybody's success stories, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? I can't even get another one, I decided I had to go direct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we did.
And to this day, our business is probably 95% direct. Yeah. We like that engagement of, and again, we support a lot of great signing services. Derek, you yourself, you have a great one, and a lot of our, other notary peers that have signing service, we support them. Hey,
those are the 5% we do. For our counterparts who say, I got one in Jersey. How far are you from this? Can you cover this? Absolutely.
But we like the interaction that occurs. One, we like the marketing, the speaking with them, the wanting to be a closing partner, a partner for them at the closing table,
knocking on the door. So
we enjoy that, and because we enjoy that, that's why direct for us is great. We like the interaction directly with title and escrow companies. So yeah, so we from a very, and again, I was not yet on board at this point. This is still just Cathy, but it was always the two of us kind of making the decisions.
We decided let's give this one full year and see what happens after a full year. If this would be something that would be viable for us. Excuse me.
Marketing. Just Cathy was doing the marketing.
Dave was helping me out with a few things online because I'm not very keen on social media.
Okay.
So Dave was kind of like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Title companies.
Cathy was going to title. Cathy
Dave was creating our logo, giving us, the feel of the company, so to speak. That was all Dave. And I was the one trying to get my foot in the door with a lot of companies, back doors, side doors, indoors, whatever way it worked to try to get in there. But then Dave's like, let me come on. And luckily, at this time, things were starting to pick up because interest rates were slowly starting to drop. So towards the end of 2019, Dave's like, let me in.
The intent, now my intent, this is where her and I always kind of argue a bit, if you will. My intent was to, hey, I want to get in soon. And hers was, no, hey, we started it, but stay put because we don't know if this can happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the first things before I could even come on that I had to answer for her was what are we doing for our medical insurance? How will that work? Because it's, again, as an employee, you have benefits through your respective employer. It's now we have to figure that all out. So it was, so I had to put all that in place first and explain to her, hey, this is what's going on. And the whole time I'm like, let me in. I want in. I wanted to go at it. I'm watching our peers, on different forums. And
now it's getting to the point that I had to say no because you can physically only be in so many places in one day.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I doing some signings like after work or on weekends, so you kind of
Yes. I was already doing them. A few at night or on a weekend
or a day off from work.
So there was some. So I was getting my feet wet in it, knowing the function. Don't get me wrong. Again, I knew the function. I knew what it was about, and I knew a loan package already from my previous experience. But it was, I still wasn't doing it for Vidal Notaries. I was doing it for Vidal Notaries, but I wanted to do more and I wanted to get in. And this concept of working together, and I was like, yes, I want to do this.
And I was a little nervous about it, to tell you the truth.
And so when she finally gave me the green light, it was like, happy day.
Well, you know what? It's still a little, it worked. It works for us. But I will tell you, for those who don't know, we don't have children, so it is just the two of us. So now you get up in the morning, you work a business together, you talk about business, and I was just like, wait a minute, like where is there going to be any separation? Like his time, my time, I love him, I like him, but oh my God, all the time? Like that was my thing, all the time. Even though, he does his signings, I do mine, you come home, you talk about your day, but I was just like, wait a minute, I don't want to just become this one mush ball of the two of us combined without it could be a lot, working and living together and everything, and
Sure.
figuring out, can you even work together? Can you grow a business together? Because his way of doing things is different than mine. And I'm up at the crack of dawn. Dave's a night owl. Like, how is this really going to work? And then he wants to talk business after dinner. After dinner, I'm like, wait, is it bedtime yet? So we've had to adjust and compromise on both our ends.
Okay.
To make this work, to make it,
Yeah.
It's not that much work. It's a podcast. Quotation marks, but does take work. You do have to figure out, when do we talk about work? When do we stop talking about work? Do we talk about work on the weekend? Who does what functions in the business?
Yeah.
Who is doing the social media, or who's doing the secretarial or the admin work, the accounts and getting paid and not getting paid. Who's scheduling us? We had to figure out what we were each really good at in the respect of this business, and then delegate those roles to each one of us, so that we could have, I guess, a company that flows nicely.
That's one of the, that, and I mean, what Cathy touched on is exactly that. You have to, if both people, and there's a lot, since going in this industry, we've met other notary couples, other folks even in other industries that work together. And the common theme, the common thread that you see there is, it's just that you have to have a role. You have to have a role. You have to communicate, and you have to have a role. Because if you're both wanting to do accounting, and you're both wanting to do operations, and you're both wanting to do marketing, and you're both wanting to do sales, granted, we both do sales, and we both do the function of loan signing, we had to find that thing that distinguishes us. That at the end of the day, I know I can count on her to deal with our invoicing, our accounting, dealing with some of the corporate stuff that comes up, because we're an LLC and we're a tax designation as an S corp. So there's stuff that we have to file.
Mostly me,
and then in the meantime, she's looking at me like, okay, well, you're putting up our social media posts, and you're dealing with our marketing and our overall voice, and so that's, and you have to do that. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts on that. You have to do that separation, because
where I think you can role for each of these, like, hey, we need to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Or nothing will happen. So
nothing will happen. No. You start stepping on each other, like, hey, well, you should be doing the accounting this way, or you should be doing the posts that way. We'll give feedback to each other,
and we help out. I mean, something like last week, I was sick. I was literally sick. I had a fever. I was laid up for 2 days. Dave had to handle most of the, While we do have separation, I mean, we need to also be able to step in, and pick up the slack from the other.
And also working as a couple, we joke around with this, Cathy and I, but being in this function together as a couple, this is when you really realize if you like someone. And Derek, there's a distinguished to be. There's something. He
had to figure out there is a difference between loving somebody and still liking the person.
I do love her. Cathy and I, we're going to be married 20 years. I love her.
Oh wow!
But we realized quickly that we like each other too, because you spend time with each other. We're now. Before, when we each had our own careers, when we each were working in separate industries, we'd catch up during the day.
Sure.
Home at night. I really don't want to talk about my day because,
I wouldn't get
PO'd at my boss, or I had a situation
same thing.
Yeah. And it was the same thing with her. Like she's trying to tell me about a situation. I'm looking at her like glassy eyed because I have no idea what she's talking about, and vice versa. Now, like, we have a bad day, or we have a bad signing, or we have a bad circumstance.
Or good ones, too.
Or good ones. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do the bad stuff. But no matter what the situation, we talk about it. Like, hey, you had a great situation, you had a great signing. First time with a new client, like, hey, how'd it go? Like, who'd you meet? And that...
it's a common interest.
Yeah, we look forward to talking about it now, where before maybe it was...
You guys get it. You guys get each
other. There is something to be said. When he was in banking, and he's coming home talking about, a 2.5 million portfolio that he has to sell off. I'm like, what? Not that
None of it goes into my bank account or
Not
my bank.
that, it's nothing to do with intelligence or anything. It's just like, I'm not there. I don't get it. I don't know the nuances.
Yeah.
Just like with me telling him, oh my God, we got to file a brief by Thursday night, and I'm like 20 pages in, and he's like, a brief? What are you talking about? Because I'm paralegal. So like different things. And now it's like if I say, oh my God, these people, and the 1003 was this or that, he goes, well, we all get it. We know what the 1003 is. We know what the issues are, or the deed, the in Jersey it's a mortgage. The mortgage was invested correctly, and nobody wanted to sign. We had to wait on the lender, things like that. And we get it. You understand it. It light bulb that goes off, and it's like, yay.
That's good. So that's good. So that's a good tip for everybody. If you want to get in with your partner, you need to pick roles. It's okay, you're in charge of this role, even though we can help each other, but you're in charge of that role.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now I've seen you guys at conferences, and you guys always have a crowd around you, so I know you guys are always talking and discussing people. I'm sure a common question is probably, how do I get my partner, my spouse, my whatever involved with me? I'm seeing some success, and I think together we could do it, but they just don't seem interested. Do you guys get those questions a lot?
We've gotten those questions, and there's actually a couple that we do know the same thing. If they're not into it, though, you can't force it. You really can't. They have, let's do it this way. If sometimes people, you compromise, and you're like, all right, for you, I'm willing to give it a shot, right? That's life. That's partnerships, marriage, whatever. I think as long as everybody goes into, one may want it more than the other.
Uh-huh.
Let's say, spouse B is not quite sure about it, but you know what? Spouse A, you're totally excited about this. You know what? I'm going to give it a chance. As long as you go in knowing that you're going to give it a full, give it your 100% to see if it's going to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. But that other spouse A, has to be realistic that if their heart's not in it,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
They'll still be there to support you, absolutely. Yeah. And they'll be, what is it, your ride or died, and we've got your back and everything. But I'm not necessarily going to do this with you. Yeah. This will be your job, your baby, your project, but I'm still going to go do what my 9 to 5 is. And you know what? Maybe you need a little help on the weekends. Sure, I can pick up a closing or two for you, or
print docs
for you at least. Be there to help in what I can, but you have to like it. You have to have a passion for it. You probably have to like it more than whatever your 9 to 5 is. Yeah. Ultimately, that's where the whole communication thing comes in. I know signing service owners prefer to have their notaries be over communicative. Yeah. And I'd rather you tell me A, B, C, D, even if it's 50 calls and you're not even at the signing yet, but you're now telling me you're running late or whatever. I think in any partnership, whether it's with your spouse or you and your best friend or whomever, two people who are trying to get together and start something, you have to over communicate and be very honest. Like figure out what you really do want or don't want. And it may sting a little at first, just like with Dave and I, sometimes things sit on the back burner, as we say, for weeks and weeks because we can't agree on it. And if we can't agree or lay out the pros and cons and say, yes, you know what, I think 50% of our budget really should go towards this. If we cannot agree, we don't do it because down the road, it's not going to be like, well, you said, or you didn't want to do this, and that's just not healthy for anybody in any type of partnership.
I always say that, and Cathy's the queen of the baby steps. That's the thing that we. And so we'll tell that to the couples, like, look, maybe you, let's say a husband or wife, let's say the wife started, in our case, the wife started, and she's much further ahead in the role and in the company. And now, if they want to bring in that partner or spouse, just understand that person may not be at that same level too. And let maybe that person do the same baby steps that you went through to at least have a little bit of a feel of catching up and knowing what's going on and feeling out the situation. And because that's just it. I think sometimes I can see it where some folks, if they're very far ahead in their career as a loan signing agent or as a signing service owner, and then they want that other person to be right up there with them, and it's like that person may not even get what the whole situation is. Well, how do you do any of that? So I think just let that person take those baby steps too is probably going to be key. Because you want to figure out from the beginning, if it's not going to work out, you want it at that moment when it's in the initial phase. You don't want to put a lot of time and effort into building something together only to know that one of you doesn't have your heart.
The heart's not in it. Yeah.
That makes sense. As we've been kind of scheduling this for the last couple of weeks to do this podcast, I've been thinking more about me and my wife's role together in our signing service business. And I've just had to come to the realization that she just doesn't love it. She doesn't mind doing it. And when we have a client who says, "Hey, can you get somebody that's Spanish speaking?" Where my wife is Spanish speaking, she's more than happy to do it. Or maybe if I'm double booked, I'm like, "Hey, do you want to do one of these?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." But she does not want to get in the trenches. Even though we're having some really great success, she still she doesn't have the passion for it. And I just now have to accept that. She doesn't have the passion for it, and that's okay. She doesn't mind helping. She doesn't mind being my cheerleader. And she doesn't mind just doing something here and there. And even I've told her, "Hey, do you want to do the scheduling? You just answer the email." She goes, "No, I don't even want to do that part of it. Hire a scheduler." And so it's just something. It was hard for me to grasp. But one thing I've always also said is, some people just aren't meant to be entrepreneurs. Everyone loves the idea of it. Everyone loves the idea of managing your own schedule and controlling your own time and money and income. But there's a lot of work that goes into it, as you guys know, and some people just aren't meant to do all of that other work. And I just have to realize maybe she's not meant for all of that, but she's meant for a support role. Because now that she's done it, she does a few signings. I can go home and talk to her. Because when I have, like you guys have said, something weird happens or something stressful happens, now I have someone I can call and I can talk to. Before, I was just when I first started this, I had no one to talk to. I did this all by myself, and when anything stressful happened, it was just all internal that I had to kind of deal with. But at least now she's done it, and she's had some weird experiences too, where I can call her and say, "This happened," and she goes, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe it." She's just an ear for me sometimes too, and that's also just sometimes very helpful.
That's very important.
You can always talk to us, though. Remember, you can always talk to us.
But it's true. Even if it's nice to have the sounding board, the ear that is there, and they, like you said, your wife, she gets it, she does understand it, she doesn't want to have much to do with it, but she is there, and like you said, she'll step up if you're in a pinch for Spanish or double booked or sitting at one, and it should have been over 3 hours ago, but you're still sitting there, and she can pick up, and that's what makes, to me, that's even if it's not a business partnership, that is what a partnership, a relationship is all about. At least having the support, the cheerleader, the person who's there to lift you up when you're good and catch you when you're falling back down too, and smack some sense into you when our heads get a little too big for each other. They bring us right back down to reality.
Oh, she's happy to knock me down a few pegs when I get there.
Kathy grabs a bat.
Was this either of yours' first business?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So like you said, that whole entrepreneurial spirit, Dave kind of had that, even though he always worked a 9 to 5. I did not. I was this is my role. This is what I do. I'm in this time. I'm out by that time. And you come home at the end of the week, you have your paycheck. And I guess that's how I was kind of raised to do. Get a good job, be good at your job, and get your benefits and your pay, Sure. So when Dave's like, "Oh, you start the business," I was like, "What?" It wasn't a comfortable feeling for me. It was strange when I left the 9 to 5 that first week, and I'm sitting here by myself at home. There's nobody to talk to. There's no, let's meet at the water cooler, or do you want to go around the corner and grab lunch? And it was so strange and so weird. And I had many times I'm like, this is not for, and I'm not a very social person, but I missed even just a little bit, or Did you watch the show
Pretty
last night?
good.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I had to put the TV on all the time because I needed to hear voices. You know, even if they weren't talking to me, I missed that office atmosphere a lot. And then when he would come home, just wanting to decompress, suddenly I just had a chit chat. Like I wanted to chit chat for 5 hours. And just like, well, you haven't been home. I haven't spoken to anybody. You're going to have to hear me now for 5 hours.
Well, people don't realize that. I tell this story a lot too, that the entrepreneurial journey is also sometimes a very lonely journey.
Yes.
And sometimes I wake up early. I'm the first to wake up. I jump in my mobile office and I'm on the road, and I'm by myself. I mean, I'll talk. I'm talking to strangers here and there doing their signings. It's usually okay. I gotta go. Thanks. Talk to you later. I gotta go drop off documents, and so it gets lonely. And then I get home sometimes really late, and kids want my attention. Wife wants my attention, but yeah, sometimes people don't realize it's a lonely journey sometimes.
Yes.
Very much so. I joke around with the fact, what I miss the most? A holiday party. Now, granted, yes, COVID made it very difficult for any of that to ever happen, and we get it. But previously, when employed, I had gone to a holiday party. We had been to a holiday party. And so we were joking that we missed that, because there's no holiday parties to go to. Your clients may have holiday parties. Our clients have holiday parties. But that's their holiday parties.
Right?
It's their stuff, I miss going. That's the one thing I miss of all of it. It's being, having the
He is the social butterfly.
the office party occur. But that's where, as a couple doing this, and again, to what extent that means, again, whether it's with full time like us, or you have somebody that's maybe like in your case, with you and your wife, Dark, you guys are, she's more in that background role, will help you out with something. But at the very least, you have that way to say, hey, you can talk. Yeah. It's when you can start talking each other's language. I think that's just a key role to at least help alleviate that loneliness that entrepreneurial life does bring. And for me and Kat, this was our first really run at our own business. We're both first generation in this country, in the U.S. and so when you come from parents that came over here to look for that better life, and that better life for them meant finding a job, getting income that way. Yeah. Kathy was the first in her family to go to college. I was the first guy in my family to go to college. So it's like, so when you have that, the expectation isn't hey, start a home-based business and work for yourself. No. Yeah, go get a good job, get a good company role, climb the ladder, don't make the mistakes we did, and so that's kind of what we were being told. But it's
not brainwashing. It's something that you hear the whole time growing up, and you're like, I stay in my lane, and this is what's expected of me, and this is what I'm going to do.
But we both wanted that different life. Different life. And the loan signing industry, awesome
notary.
Friends and peers that we've made in the loan signing industry, being a notary, being in this notarial life, it became extremely attractive to us. And
the freedom, you're right. There is the freedom of coming and going. You don't have to put in your requisition hopefully for 2 weeks vacation.
Right.
Interpreted.
Let me ask the boss if I can take time off, and I go, honey, can I take some time off?
Well, I do have that not issue, but I do have that same predicament because my boss, occasionally will ask her. I've been asking her for a raise for a while now, and she explains that there's no budget for that. We don't have any TPS reports to send in. For anybody who watched the movie The Office, that's Office Space. No TPS reports to put in. It's great. It's a great life. It's a great life.
That's awesome.
No, it really is.
Some great tips here for people that are listening that either are couples doing this or they want their partner to do this. So while they're gathering these tips, let's sidetrack a little bit. Let's talk about. You've done thousands of signings. Each of you have done thousands of signings. Do you have any funny, weird, unusual stories of signings that you've been to that you want to share with some of the people?
Oh man, it is true that there's been some interesting signing situations that have occurred.
Well, we haven't had any celebrities.
Haven't had any celebrities.
I did-
We're still rooting for them, but
I did do a signing. I remember I did a signing. I didn't get a heads up. Did this whole signing, and then I figured more than midway, it dawned on me I was doing a signing for the president of the bank, and that a huge banking institution here in New Jersey. And I guess I'm glad I didn't know that one, because I probably would have been very nervous, thinking, oh my God, you know. But the guy was really cool anyway and very laid back, and I would have never pegged him as, you know, the corporate type, you know, president. No, I mean, most of ours, you know, I don't know about really like.
Yeah, no, like I mean, again, yeah, we
probably remember 20 after this.
We'll after it's like, oh, we could have talked about that one with Derek. Yeah, celebrities. That's one thing that, and it's funny. We were just talking about that the other day. We haven't done a celebrity closing yet. You know, and not I guess, you know, not, or at least not anybody that we think is like.
We've been very lucky. Most of our signers are pretty laid back, down to earth. Even if it is like a $2.5 million home that they're refinancing. We've met interesting people. I mean, I remember there was a veteran once. He was so excited. He was a U.S. vet. The guy was off the wall, like not erratic, like very like full of energy, and his brain was all over the place. But he was a pretty cool guy.
The people that we've met, that's an interesting piece of all of this, is the people that we have met, both on the professional end, folks that trust us and recommend us, and just even overall, like the stories that you hear, that's I think actually another really interesting piece, is the stories that you hear at the closing table. You know, we always say our favorite type of buyer is the first time home buyer, to feel that excitement that they have on a daily basis. That's just so cool. You know,
I did a commercial refinance last year or 2 years ago, and the guy and his partner bought a strip mall back in like 1972.
Okay.
And back then, I think it cost, whatever it was very expensive back then.
Okay.
But he was refinancing, and the strip mall now is worth like $1 billion. And I was just like, wow, like what, you know, like things like you hear how some of these people have done it. You know, Dave's been doing a few lately where the person, they're purchasing a condo, but it's like their fifth condo, because they buy it early on, they sit on it for a year, then they either rent it out or they sell it for, like, people who just understand, like, it's the investment part of real estate. We got a set of flippers that we do work for, these two guys who buy and flip homes all the time. And they like Dave a lot. So actually Dave just follows them wherever it is, you know, whatever title and law firm they go to. I don't know. It's a nice people, nice atmosphere. You know, even the ones that, if at the signing table, they look like they are just having the worst day ever. They're mad at everybody. Yeah. And we all know that. Nobody else is there but us. So they're looking at our face. And when they say you, we know they don't mean me, Cathy. They mean, you know, the title company or the lender or the officer. But in the end, you get it done, and you see a kind of this like relief come over them. And you say, oh, congratulations, you know. And they're happy at the end. You know, I like that. I like the happy. I like the families that are coming from like small little apartments, and they finally buying that house in suburbia with the backyard. And the little kid is there at the closing table. So he's excited because he's telling me about the big backyard that he has, you know. And, you know, mommy and daddy said he could buy a bicycle now. And it's just, it's the feel good ones that really get to me.
You know, the pros have outweighed significantly the cons. Yeah, the stories, the smiles, and even when it's people buying like a summer home, or they're buying their first investment property, and that excitement that comes with that. So, you know, that's what we enjoy most about this role, about this work, is just that being a part of those stories, hearing those stories, being a part of that excitement, feeling that excitement. The bad stuff, I mean, again,
it's temporary in our business. even if it's a bad signing or it was a bad situation,
Yeah.
what did we suffer? An hour or two?
Yeah, you get
Sitting
through it.
there, or 2-3 hours, in with the phone calls or whatever. But then in this line of business, then we're done. Like when we hand off that file, it's done. It's not like your 9 to 5 where you're still thinking about that project, or it carries on to the next day. Our work is focused on that. That closing is that time, that particular moment, and then it's good, great. And even if it didn't go so smoothly,
Hopefully the next one.
but it's done. It's no longer something we necessarily have to think about. I mean, I remember all my closings, but you don't have to. It doesn't carry over to the next day. Well, hopefully it doesn't carry over to the next day. You never know sometimes.
Right.
Signings don't close on one day. They may have to go to the next day. But yeah, it's kind of like, you kind of live in the moment now, which is good.
Although, Derek,
Again.
I'd love to hear of any just particular little, if you have any, if you've had any interesting, signing situation occur.
You both know I'm interested in the paranormal.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And, I went to a house in it, not necessarily a rural area, but a kind of rural-ish area.
Oh, I'm starting to get goosebumps, and he hasn't even seen anything.
I was just talking with it was 2 different houses, and they were within like a mile of each other. And one of them was telling me a story how they said, I hear footsteps all the time going up and down our stairs. And they said, well, I want to show you something. We went down to the basement, and they had like this little cubby hole you open up, and inside, it wasn't floored or anything, it was just like dirt. It was like a little cubby hole with some Legos in it. And they were like, I don't know what happened in here, but weird.
Ooh.
And then another story, again, just down the street from each other, he was telling me how, I just asked him, I said, hey, out of curiosity, I kind of think this town is a little haunted. What do you think? He goes, oh, it is. I said,
Oh.
how do you know? He's like, I just was in my kitchen one day, walked into my living room, and somebody was just standing in my living room, and then they disappeared.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez.
That's for his other series.
Oh, that's for the other podcast.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
You definitely have not had anything like that at all.
No. That we are boring. Compared to that, we're
Yeah.
boring.
You go to some sketchy areas, but there's nothing.
Well, there was that one closing you did. Cathy
I'm drawing a blank.
had once done a closing. This was very early on at a gentleman's club.
Oh my God. It was a refinance.
Thank you for reminding us of that.
It was
Yeah.
a refinance, and I was working for just one title company that day. It just happened that all my closings were for one. So at one point, the one that should have been happening early afternoon was just getting delayed. Title even calls me and they're like, forget it. Tell the attorney he's got to do it and you got to get to the next one. And it was our niece's birthday. I remember that because that was the thing. Dave was with me that day because he was working remotely from his 9 to 5. So we didn't want to have to take 2 cars, and we knew it was cutting a little close to make it to our niece's birthday party. So he was kind of my driver for the day. And then I call the borrower. I'm like, I'm running a little behind, blah, blah, blah. He goes, all right, but you're going to have to meet me. And he gives me an address. And I said, sure, no problem. As we're pulling up, I go, you have to be kidding me. No windows on the outside, And it was a gentleman's establishment. Maybe not the most upscale of places, but it was. So here I go into this place going, oh my God, what's going to happen in here? And there was like 2 guys in there. And the bartender.
Go this way. Is that what they said?
So there were no dancers. There were no dancers at the time, but like any club, gentlemen's club, dance club, the blue lights are on, the black lights are on. So you could barely see, and here we are. And instead of the guy, he's the owner, instead of flipping the lights on, no, here we both are holding our cell phones because I couldn't even read the paper where he had to sign it. And I'm going, can't we just turn on the lights, turn on the real lights?
Yeah.
But we got it done.
And ruin the ambiance.
I didn't want to, in case somebody came in. Yes, the gentleman's
So there you
club.
go.
That one cracked me up.
There is
Yeah.
our interesting story, closing story.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hey, last thing, we got a few more minutes left. Last thing, if someone brand new, they maybe are studying for their notary commission. They just got their notary commission. They're about to get into the loan signing world. What is one tip that you'd give somebody brand new starting today?
Take your time, because it's not a race.
Yeah.
You're only competing against yourself, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Learn.
Yeah, take your time in learning. Ask questions. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, ask questions like us or anybody. Ask other notaries or other loan signers. Don't hesitate to ask your questions. Sometimes you could be putting the cart before the horse, but ask your questions. And if you don't click with that specific notary or loan signing agent, find somebody else. Because the one thing I have learned is most loan signing agents, notaries, are they love to mentor. They really do. Like, nobody's out to undermine or provide false information or anything like that. So take your time and get a buddy who you can ask questions to and or bounce ideas off, or just ask for some clarification. Maybe your buddy's done maybe like 25 closings, and oh my God, you have now a reverse mortgage you're going to do, or nothing about reverse mortgages. Who are you going to, like you want like the real details that go with one of those closings.
And the thing too to consider when Kathy and I first started, and Derek, you're probably in the same books. I think we all started about the same time. There wasn't that much information out there. I remember you had to really dig deep to get some info, and some people really were trying to sandbag the information. I remember when we first started, it was like, a lot of folks almost like were just creating obstacles because they didn't want us to, I guess, impede in their business or whatever it was. Fast forward to today, there's an abundance of information out there. There's an abundance of information. So, just dig out, go looking for those, great training programs. We are all part of one. We've all taken that a great training program. There's other information out there. There's things to read. You go on Facebook, you type in notary, you'll get 100 different forums that, pop up. And so I think a lot of folks, and because we see it, we hear it, they're so focused on, I want to do this business because I want to make X amount every month, and don't start the discussion. The conversation shouldn't start that way. It probably should start the inner monologue should start with, all right, I want to learn. I want to learn. I want to learn about what does this mean. I want to learn about, what are the people that are good at this? What do they do differently? How do they make it? And it's what Kathy was saying. Don't be in that rush. Again, for a lot of folks, it sometimes seems like a race where it's like there's no race. Just learn, because what we do, especially if your focus for being a notary is to be a loan signing agent or a notary signing agent, you're dealing with some high dollar transactions.
Right. Yeah.
You're dealing. You're dealing
sensitive information.
Yeah, and sensitive information. I get it.
Value items, right?
Yeah, high value items. There's a lot as a notary public you can do. You can go in a lot of different directions. We know that. You can do apostille work. You can do field running, field inspections, permit running, whatever. But but at the moment you start going, okay, I want to work with loans and real estate, you're dealing with high value items, and you're dealing with two very high value industries. You're supporting which is real estate and title. You want to learn about that stuff. You want to you want to make sure that you've got enough under your belt knowledge-wise to, even if you're taking your very first signing, to just know enough to know when to ask questions and know when to stop and so that's our tip, is just take your time, learn.
Don't be scared to ask questions. You'll survive. People will not bite your head off. You'll get your answers, because it can be intimidating if you come in like Dave had some knowledge. I didn't. My paralegal work was not in real estate. I knew nothing. So, you just ask the questions. Ask the questions. Take your time.
Yeah, take your time. Ask questions. Find your tribe of other signing agents and network with them and pick their brains. And then at some point, people start picking your brain as well. And pay it forward and share your information.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, the Notary Couple, Vidal Notaries, my friends, I appreciate you guys so much coming on. And again, I'll say again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship. Your friendship has meant a lot to me over the years. And
oh man,
I'm just proud to say you guys are my friends and we know each other.
Hey,
We feel the same.
We
We
love
feel
you,
the
man.
same,
We
Derek.
feel the same. Look, you came on our radar, and we connected, and we became great friends, and we love you, man. You're awesome.
Love you guys too. Can't wait to see you again. And take care. Appreciate you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Derek, you're good. Bye, everybody.